Hello and welcome back to the True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Warren.
I'm Michael.
Welcome in, creepers, non-creepers, whatever. If you're just tuning in for the first time, yeah, you can be a creeper.
Creeping in the front door for the first time.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're back.
I said first time too many times.
Yeah, we're back. We got a crazy episode this week. One of the funnest ones to study.
Absolutely.
I don't even want to talk anymore. Let's just dive into this shit.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say I don't want to use favorite serial killer because it sounds weird,
Right.
but he's my favorite serial killer
Yeah, I mean,
so far. So far.
all right. Well, we built it up enough. Let's
All
go.
right.
When you inculcate hatred in a child, it may stay with him all his life. He said he learned at a very young age when he was in reform school, Minnesota, that might makes right.
Yeah.
Right. And he felt he had a right to take it out on anybody, which is a horrible thing, but he felt he had a right to get anybody.
Did Panzram ever express any remorse to you about his past misdeeds?
No.
Do you think he was sincere in not having any remorse? Or was it just a guise?
Well, I think he was so full of hatred and with such a need, a compulsion to kill, that perhaps it never entered his mind.
In my lifetime, I have murdered 21 human beings. I've committed thousands of burglaries, robberies, larcenies, arsons, and last but not least, I've committed sodomy on more than 1,000 male human beings. For all of these things, I am not in the least bit sorry. All right, our case this week, none other than Carl Panzram. Did not know about this guy until recently, and I'm so sad that I didn't. Cause
How? How did we not know?
I don't know, man.
We call ourselves True Crime Podcast.
This is the most fun I've had studying a case since we started, hands down.
It really is.
Like, I couldn't get enough. I've just been living in Carl Panzram's world for a week now.
Yeah. You guys, and don't go Googling him right now. It's too late.
No, yeah.
Listen to us first.
Well, you can Google image him just to get a picture of his stoic, manly-ass face.
Yeah, that handsome bastard.
Yeah. I wish I looked like him.
Well,
I'm not trying, we try not to, we try not to idolize these serial killers. We really try not to. And we try to make fun of them more often than not, just because, like Bob Berdello, we just love shitting on that guy because he's a piece of shit scumbag that liked to torture people and stuff. But Panzram was hard not to because the guy's just so badass, man.
He's like one of the, I guess, original American outlaws.
And part of it is because this was in the late 19th century and early 20th century that he was like, the late 1800s. And early 1900s. So it was so long ago, like people can feel like they can make fun of the Titanic and stuff now because it was so long ago. And it just stings less when it's like you can't connect as much with these people.
No, that's right.
And
that's
a
true.
lot of Panzram's story is what he's telling us. I mean, most of the research we have was based off a book that he wrote himself.
Right.
While in prison.
And that's another thing. It's like I think about it, and I think there's probably a lot of Panzrams out there, to be honest, from that time period.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like he was a product of the times. He was a product of the prison system, and I'm sure he was.
This was the Wild West.
He was in good or bad company then with plenty of other fellas and ladies. I would think back in that time that just weren't motivated to write about it.
This was outlaw times. The United States was insane back then. He's a product of.
And again, provided he's telling the truth.
Right.
But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Well, let's get into him. Since if you're listening, hopefully you don't know who Panzram is, or if you do, it's still going to be, I can't get enough of him, and I'm sure you can't because he's just an interesting person. His life was insane. Like it's almost unbelievable, but then there's so much evidence to back up that like most of the shit he said was true. Like you can actually track the records of things.
Yeah. There is
almost everything he said was corroborated later on. Just about.
I mean,
except for shit you can't prove.
Right. And then it's hard to prove exaggerations as well. So
right. But anyways, I don't know. He just didn't seem like an exaggerator to me. He just was very factual in his writing. It was like, this is what happened, and then that's what it wasn't like. And
you're talking about a guy with a 6th grade education as well. So
yeah. Well, let's get into it. He was born June 28th, 1891, in Grand Forks, Minnesota. He was the son of German immigrants, Johann, basically John, and Matilda Panzram. He was the last of 8 children. It was a very poor family. Right. They were basically on a farm that wasn't farming shit. It seemed like they just got very small yields from what they were farming, from what I understand. It was work all day to get very little in return.
I think you would refer to them as dirt farmers.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, farming dirt.
Yeah, nothing's coming out of it. He was raised on his family's farm. It was school and farm every day. Get home from school, farm all night long. It was nothing but a grind. There was no
Right.
fun childhood here. And he was often beaten up by his brothers, his older brothers. You know, he was the youngest, so he was just
Right.
any little thing that he did wrong, he was punished for
Yeah,
it.
and he also had to do all like all this shit work too.
Yeah.
Any chore they didn't want to do.
He was the family's peon, it sounds like.
Yeah, well,
And it doesn't sound like his mother favored him. Like usually a mom ends up favoring the youngest because they get picked on so much and like it's the baby of the family.
Right.
It sounds like his mom was more of a fan of like one of the other brothers.
what?
She had like a favorite son, and then we'll get to what happened to him later.
All right.
As with most serial killers, he had some traumatic thing go on with his head.
Right.
And it wasn't necessarily brain damage,
Right.
but he had a mastoid behind his left ear. And because this is the late 1800s, there wasn't state-of-the-art hospitals to treat this type of thing, and his family didn't have
And
money.
I was about to say, even if there were, they can't afford it.
Right. So what they did was held him down on the kitchen table and
no anesthetic,
no anesthetic and
No-
attempted to cut this thing out from
Right.
behind his ear.
no painkillers.
Yeah. Infection ensued. I mean, I guess leading up to this thing, the reason he knew something was wrong was because he was constantly having problems with his hearing and he just didn't feel right in
Right.
general. And there was basically an infection going on, and that could have spread to his brain. It could be a big reason for why he turned out the way he was, because all of his brothers and like all
Right.
of his siblings turned out to be completely normal.
And I also imagine every time he complained about this, he probably just got beat more.
Yeah.
Which just
Oh, your ear hurts? Now your fucking nose hurts.
yeah, right.
Punch him right in the nose.
I'll make your ear hurt. Come here.
Exactly.
You know, just making the problem even worse.
Yeah, and making the problem worse is a good way to put it, because after they attempted to cut this out from on his kitchen table, it didn't fix things, and they ended up actually having to take him to the hospital and have it properly removed.
Right.
Now, what kind of damage was done, I don't know. This is a big source of, people like to speculate that maybe this had a big reason for why he was so impulsive, and maybe why he was
Yeah, maybe.
his decision making was the way it was. I don't know. I mean, obviously his upbringing was about as
Or it could be
brutal
getting
as it
beat
gets.
down his entire
Yeah.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah, so that was when he was 6 or 7, and then his father abandons the family when he was about 8 years old, just pulled out and left. Apparently, that's according to his writings.
That's the quote from his writings. He
Yeah.
just pulled out. I don't know if he was in a carriage or
yeah,
in
or
a pedal car.
we have other terms for pulling out as well. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, they had 8
He's
kids.
tired
Maybe
of
he
having
should
kids.
start doing that.
Well, it's about time he damn pulled out.
There's already 8 of us. Yeah, so he left at 8, and that's another serial killer check mark there. It's like no father figure.
Right.
I mean, up until he was 8, but there's formative years ahead of him there.
Yeah.
He could have used a father around. I don't know if his father was a good influence anyways. You never know.
Right.
He could have been beating him as well with his brothers.
Right.
After that, his brothers started leaving. And shortly after that, one of his brothers, and this is his mother's favorite son,
How did
drowned.
they know that? Like, was that in his writings? As
Yeah,
well?
I guess it said in his writings that it was his mother's
Okay.
favorite son drowned. And so that just made it even worse, because then his mother's depressed.
Yeah.
Her sons are leaving, one of them drowned, and it's not like a fun
Like, I wonder if it
childhood
was.
or anything.
I wonder if it was like a Johnny Cash type thing where, like, God, you took the wrong son, you know, or if it was.
Why couldn't you take Carl?
Or if it was just like one of those implied things, like, oh, it's Mark, it's Mom's favorite.
Right, it
I
might have
wonder if it
been.
was just one of those things.
Yeah.
Or if she was like, my favorite one, the rest of you can fuck off. No one called me while he was drowning. You know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what it said in his writings, though. At 8 years old, this says a lot right here about how miserable it must have been growing up in this
Well,
environment.
we've all been here.
Yeah, we've all tipped a few back when we were 8 years old and gotten convicted of drunk and disorderly conduct at 8 years old.
Right. I mean, sounds like a normal childhood to me.
And this would be his first of many, many, many arrests. Convicted of drunk and disorderly conduct when he was 8 years old.
Well, how do they even do that at 8 years old? I mean, I think even now they would be like, oh, where do
They
you
should
live?
punish
Where do you
the mom,
live?
right?
Where do you live, kid?
I
Where's
feel
your
like-
parents?
Yeah, drive
Yeah.
the kid to the house, let him fucking
Yeah.
sober up, and talk to the mom and be like, why is your kid not at home? Why is he out drinking and being disorderly?
Right. I feel like it'd be a slap on the wrist now. Even back then, I mean, I figure like it would be like, hey, kid, give me that beer. And then you'd finish it for him. And then
Right.
you would walk away.
Right? Get home.
You'd wait at least 3 years for this.
Get home, kid. You got any more? From 8 to 11, he thieved and burglarized homes. At 11 years old, he broke into a neighbor's home and stole food, as you do when you're broke and poor kid and living on a farm that probably grows dirt instead of apples. And so he stole apples and cake and a big old revolver were his words, a big old gun.
Yeah.
And he
Stole
was always
Rick Grimes revolver.
Yeah, he's one of the little boys that was obsessed with guns. And this was a time which was very there was propaganda against Native Americans during this time. This was the cowboys and Indians time era, where there were signs posted like, if you see Native Americans, kill that, that type of thing. That was the environment he was raised in.
Right.
And so when he got that gun, that's what the image that popped in his head apparently was like. He had images of him. Like I picture like a Christmas Story where he's like old Bart and like shooting Native Americans.
Don't shoot your eye out with that revolver, kid.
Right.
You're going to shoot your head off. No, it's like, I still feel like this is an innocent time for him. I still feel like all this stuff is still... It's still a childish thing, even with all the beatings and the mastoid infection and all that shit.
He still could have turned out normal had things gotten on the right track.
He still wants to be a normal kid here.
Yeah.
I picture him walking through the woods, pretending like he's shooting Indians and shit.
Well, that's what the documentary that we watched portrays.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the resources we used real quick? Because we always forget to do that.
Yeah, let's do it real quick. We watched a movie/documentary.
It was more of a documentary.
More of a documentary.
Fucking fantastic. It was my favorite crime doc that I've watched. It was. I just the whole time my jaw was just open. I couldn't believe the life this guy had.
It is incredibly interesting.
Yeah,
if you guys
very
have
entertaining.
an hour and a half, sit down, watch it. It's called Carl Panzram, The Spirit of Hatred and Vengeance.
And it was made by, what was his name?
Oh shit, I can't remember.
You didn't write it down?
No.
Anyways, you're a piece of shit.
I know. You want to get it? You want to pause it?
No, it's all good.
All right.
Just look it up. It's on Amazon Prime.
It is.
And I was on Netflix at one time. I don't know if it still is.
They took it down.
Oh, okay.
Not
Well, it's on
Netflix.
Amazon Prime. Well, I'm sure you can get it on YouTube if you pay for it or whatever.
The one on YouTube was not the right movie.
But they might have it for purchase on YouTube. A lot of times.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
The
Anyways.
free one is not the right thing though. They have the picture of the title, and I clicked on it, and I was like, "What the fuck is this? It's some kind of like weird off horror movie."
Well, Carl Panzram, Spirit of Vengeance, and what is it called?
The Spirit of Hatred and Vengeance.
Okay, yeah, check that out. It was very entertaining.
Right, and we also read the book Panzram, A Journal of Murder.
Which was mainly his writings, and it was
Yeah, it's like his writings, and then kind of connected the dots.
yeah,
and
it was
types
great.
of things
great,
with research.
great reading.
Right, and then other various articles, including the screen caps of his actual writings.
Yeah, the
which you
Panzram papers.
Yeah, and you can find those San Diego State University website.
Yeah.
You can check out those
The PDFs
or whatever.
Yeah.
It's really cool, and the pages are all numbered, so you can kind of read them in order. And
Yeah, and he
really
uses
cool.
cursive writing, and he's got like certain ways, like his eye looks like a P backward. Like there's certain you have to like. It takes you a little while to get used to it, but his writing wasn't. It's legible. Like you can read it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Keep in mind he has a 6th grade education, so
But he was well read
He's
at the same
actually
time.
doing-
Like he self-taught himself
Right.
a lot. He read papers. He was not a dumb guy. He was just.
that's what I'm saying. Like he does really well to have
Yeah.
a 6th grade education. I mean, if you took a 6th grader out right now and told them to write something, I feel like
it wouldn't be Panzram.
especially not in their 20s or 30s.
Right. Okay, so after he stole the gun and the food and stuff from his neighbor's house, he hopped a train, and in hopes of heading west and killing Native Americans. We talked about these beautiful dreams he had.
Right. Manifest destiny.
Yeah, he was caught shortly thereafter on the train, beaten and severely beaten and taken to jail. There at jail, his mother agreed to have him sent to reform school in a plea bargain for the burglary charge. And this is one of those moments. This school is a big formative moment for him in the wrong way.
Yep.
So in 1903, he's 12 years old. He's enrolled at Minnesota State Training School in Red Wing, Minnesota. And this school's kind of infamous for the punishments that used to go on during this time.
I wouldn't be surprised if this school created more serial killers than just Panzram.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, that'd be something to really look into.
It would be.
And they have kept a lot of recordings, and this is one of those moments where you go, he wrote about this later on, and then you go back, and the documentary went back to Red Wing, and they still have files of his punishments.
Oh, yeah.
There was, 27, I believe? Yeah, 27 punishment slips from his time at Red Wing were recovered.
Yeah. And a lot of them were just normal things that kids do in school. It was like, kicking another kid.
Well, this is a Christian school, very, like,
right,
hardcore.
throwing a pencil in class. I mean, just like
Yeah.
somewhat innocent stuff for a 11 and 12-year-old. But
And students there were going to be taught the Bible and be prepared for the industrial workforce. This is kind of the industrial boom time in America, shortly before, a decade or so before the crash.
right, and this really fueled his hatred for religion too.
Oh,
At
yeah.
a young age, he was like, this religion is fucked
We've
up.
got a hell of a quote for you when he finally got out of this school, but we got to talk a little bit more about.
And this school's still
the
here,
things
by the
that
way.
happened. Yeah, but
like,
it's different
like
now.
Lauren talked about. Yeah, it's definitely not like this.
Right.
I mean, like it's nice.
They've got
now.
like acting class and stuff
yeah,
there now. and
They're
it's-
actually trying to reform these
Right.
kids now. It's
Instead
they
of making
call them
worse.
residents. They don't even call them prisoners anymore. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a nice thing.
Upon arrival, he was stripped naked and asked questions about his sexual practices. He was asked if he'd ever.
What?
I know, like why? He's fucking 12 years old.
Welcome to Red Wing. Take your clothes off.
In 1903, he's 12 years old. I just don't think that's necessary. Quote from him. He says, he examined my penis and rectum, asking me if I'd ever committed fornication or sodomy, or had ever had sodomy committed on me, or if I had ever masturbated. And, he would later say that this is how he learned that the penis could do other things. So they taught him that, basically.
Yeah.
They may have helped create this monster.
Yeah.
We mentioned 27 punishment slips during this time, and on the premises at the reform school in Red Wing was a workshop that was used for punishment, and it was actually referred to as the paint shop because students would go there and they would be painted black and blue from the punishments that they would receive.
Right. Oh, and real quick before we get too far from the, where they stripped them naked and examined them and everything, they also made notes of like scars and things like that they found on his body. And
Oh yeah, they noted that there was a
proof.
scar behind his left ear.
Right, there was a scar behind his left ear where the
mast-
mastoid
yes.
operation had happened. So
Yep. Further proof that a lot of the shit he said can be proven correct. It can be corroborated.
right.
He attempted to escape. Now, this would be the first of many attempted escapes and many successful escapes this dude could not be held down. He was like
Right.
just a slithery snake that you just couldn't. You ever see them
Yeah.
snakes that you can put them in a cage and no matter how tight it is, they'll find a way out? That's this dude. Like he escaped from places that no one escapes from.
Is that a thing? Like putting snakes in cages that are tiny and they can't get out?
I had a buddy.
do that?
I had a buddy who had a snake.
You should put it in a goddamn aquarium.
That's what I'm talking about. He had an aquarium, and no matter what he did, he had a python that would always get out because
How?
they can shrink down to like paper thin.
And fit through glass, Lauren? And fit through
They
fucking
have to have a
glass.
top on there. It's not solid glass. No matter what you did to the top, the snake would always find a way out.
All right.
I don't know who had snakes. I feel like people. I'm going to judge you if you have a snake for a pet. You're kind of weird.
No.
I used to have one. I had one when I was a kid, and it just like
I don't believe that.
They
Only
suck. They're
50%
shitty
of
pets.
the-
They just shit on you.
No, only 50% of this podcast thinks that. Snakes are cool.
All right. Well,
Kinda.
don't
Not
give,
poisonous ones, though.
If you want to give us a bad review because I hated on you as a snake owner, just remember Michael approves of your snake
There
ownership.
you go. So only give us like 2.5 stars.
3 star. Yeah, there you go. 2.5. He would also another thing he liked to do is if he didn't like something, he would attempt to burn that shit down. So he started that early when he was 12 years old and he's at the school. He burned down the paint shop. And the damage here,
Bastards.
he says $100,000 in his writing is what was the damage.
That was like his favorite number, though,
That's
for
like
values.
$1 billion in 1906. Now we've heard it was
Yeah.
actually 25 grand. That was one of the few things that was actually proven that he was incorrect on. But it's a
Yeah.
dollar amount. It's kind of like,
I feel like he just likes that number.
yeah,
It's like, Dave, did you eat my candy bar? That was a $100,000 candy bar, you bastard!
yeah. He said that for
It's just
everything.
everything, $100,000.
Yeah. So I mean, that was one detail that he was incorrect on. That was one of the only things that he was ever proven to be wrong on in his writings. After 2 years in Red Wing, he was deemed reformed and fit for release. Now we have a quote for when he left it. You want to go ahead and read quote number 1 here from Carl Pan? He's got a lot of famous quotes. It's one of the favorite things about studying this guy is that he has legendary. His story, the way he explains things, is just so it's like theatrical.
He does. But I also want to take this time to be like, I wonder if some of these places just wanted to let him go. You
Right,
know, you
because
ever
they don't
think
want to deal
about
with
that?
him anymore.
You ever
'cause
think about that?
He was a nonstop troublemaker. Everywhere,
Right.
like this school, just
It seems like he had a few.
he would have been in
unsuccessful-
Slytherin if he was in Hogwarts. Let's put it
Oh,
that way. He was
most
just causing
definitely.
nonstop trouble. Like,
Slytherin.
yeah,
Yeah, like definitely because it seems like everywhere he went, he had 1 or 2 escape attempts, and then they would find him, and eventually they were probably like, you know what, fuck this guy, man.
just let him go.
Yeah, just let him go.
Yeah.
He's always kicking kids and shit.
Yeah.
Just let him go.
But he's also
let him
just
go.
a kid too. Like, I think they were
Yeah.
trying to make these kids,
Yeah.
perfect. And like kids are just hyperactive a lot of times, and
Yeah.
Just being a kid at times. You
Yeah,
know?
they
But
had different medicine for ADD
he was like
back
Dennis the
then.
Menace. You know, he was Dennis the Menace, and you turned him into fucking Hannibal Lecter. Like,
God. Just let him have his damn slingshot and go out in the woods for a little while.
exactly. Let him have his pistol and shoot some.
Let him shoot some shit. All right.
All right, so here's this quote after he got out of reform school. I'll just read it real quick since it's in front of me. After serving about 2 years there, I was pronounced by the parole board to be a nice, clean boy of good morals, as pure as lily, and a credit to those in authority in the institution where I had been sent to be reformed. Yeah, sure, I was reformed all right. Damn good and reformed, too. When I got out of there, I knew all about Jesus and the Bible so much that I knew it was a lot of hot air. But that wasn't all I knew. I'd been taught by Christians to be a hypocrite, and I'd learned more about stealing, lying, hating, burning, and killing. I'd learned about that a boy's penis could be used for something besides to urinate with, and that a rectum could be used for purposes other than crepitating.
Oh, yeah?
Oh yes, I learned a hell of a lot. From my expert instructors furnished me free of charge by society in general and the state of Minnesota in particular. From the treatment I received while there and the lessons I learned from it, I had fully decided when I left there just how I would live my life. I made up my mind that I would rob, burn, destroy, and kill everywhere I went and everybody I could as long as I lived. That's the way I was reformed in the Minnesota State Training School. So,
Right.
sounds like
So-
they did a good job at school.
Sounds like a
They
damn
made a
success.
hell of a man out of this boy. You know?
Yeah.
He's ready to move on in
Made
life.
something out of him.
And, yeah. Yeah, so he leaves the school and he returns home, and shortly after that, he went right back to that lifestyle of, grinding on the farm all day. His brothers are gone. This is nothing
Right.
there for him. So
He's like, you know what? School wasn't so bad.
right, Mom, can you send me another one? So he convinces his mom to send him to another school, and at that school, it was not a lot better. He received whippings on the daily from a certain teacher, which he, in Carl Panzram fashion.
This is another religious school as well.
Is it?
Yeah. It's another religious school.
Well, he did something very sacrilege and brought a gun to school and tried to kill the teacher that was whipping him every day. And that struggle ensued.
Yeah.
A fight for the gun ensued, and the teacher gained control of the situation. He was, therefore after kicked out of the school, which is a pretty mild punishment for.
But he actually got to a point where he tried to fire on this teacher, though.
Did he?
Yeah. He fired, and the gun misfired 3 times. He literally held it up to the preacher's. He was like a preacher in that school, like a reverend.
Yeah.
Literally held it up to his face, clicked the gun 3 times.
Well,
and then they were like,
God
you know
stepped
what?
in, bro.
You know what, pal? We're gonna send you home. We can't have that shit here. No arrest.
That's an
no
argument.
nothing.
That's an argument for religion, though. I mean, shit. A gun misfires 3 times. It doesn't go off 3 times.
That is pretty crazy. And the chances are that
God stepped in. That's the chances.
Really, Lauren, we getting right there. We're going right
I mean,
there.
what, a preacher.
No. I'm on your side as far as like how crazy it is, because it was most likely it was a
Some
revolver.
Pulp Fiction stuff.
Revolvers don't misfire that much. They don't jam.
Right.
They don't jam. So unless you forgot to load it,
Yeah, right.
unless you were fucking playing Russian roulette, you only had 1 bullet, and you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
You give me 2 more, and this will be over.
Yeah. So after he gets kicked out of that school, he's about 13 or 14 years old. He went back to the farm, and then he decided to take off. And so he leaves the farm on foot and starts hopping trains heading west. There's another moment where it just makes him into more of a monster.
It's another turning point for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's already probably going to become a monster at this point. This just like solidifies it.
Yeah.
So around that 13 to 14-year-old age, he's riding trains, and on one of the trains he gets on, there's a couple other homeless drifters that are on the train with him, and they, he's a young teenager, and they, with force and might, they basically rape him
Right.
on the train. And
Well, they acted really friendly at first. It's not like he just walked up to a group of like.
that just makes it
creepy
even
dudes.
worse. That means that you can't trust anyone because
Exactly.
he thought
That's
that
what
he
I'm
could trust
saying.
them.
This instilled less trust in humanity and more hate right here. This is just fueling that fire of I fucking hate everybody right now. I can't trust anybody. Nobody loves me. Nobody gives a shit about me.
Right. And one lesson he said he learned was that force and might make right.
Right.
And after that, he began returning the favor to humanity. He began sodomizing men of all ages, sizes, and colors. He did not discriminate. It was basically a power thing for him. There's a whole conversation that many have had about whether he was gay, because he sodomized you heard it in the intro. He ends up by the end sodomizing, speculated around 1,000 people, maybe more, maybe less.
Right.
But that's what he says.
And we've done the math, and it's actually possible.
It is very possible.
It's like one guy every 3 days or something like that.
Yeah, and with him always on the road, always coming across other people, being a drifter and everything, it's very possible. And he was a burly. I mean, even in his teenage years, he was always a bigger, strong, big, strapping dude, and only got even more strong with all the beatings he took and the prison sentences and the.
Right. Now there are some things out there that say that like he was just a fucking giant.
Right. Some people say 6'5". He wasn't 6'5".
We're not really convinced he was 6'5". We're saying he was somewhere hovering around 6 foot. Right.
Right.
You think
that's the consensus? Even he says he was about 6 foot.
Right. So he wasn't this towering, intimidating figure. But he was a burly man. He was, he was always, muscular but he wasn't a giant.
I like in my mind to picture him being like 7 feet, but that's just me.
Yeah.
More out of we talked about how the sodomizing that he begins to do during this time, it's about dominance, power, and revenge for him. Right. It's getting back. It's like, I'm taking the power back. People have always abused me, and everyone I come across from now on, I'm going to abuse. And we have another quote from after this experience and previous experiences. Okay, so this is a quote. "These two experiences taught me several lessons I have never forgotten. I did not want to learn these lessons, but I found out that it isn't what one wants in this world, but what that one gets. Force and might makes right. Perhaps things shouldn't be that way, but that's the way they are. I learned to look with suspicion and hatred on everybody. As the years went on, the idea persisted in my mind above all others. I figured that I was strong enough and clever enough to impose my will on others. I was right. I still believe that to this day. Another lesson I learned at that time was that there were a lot of very nice things in this world. Among them were whiskey and sodomy. But it depends on who and how they were used. I have used plenty of them both since, but I have received more pleasure of them since than I did those first times. Those were the days when I was learning lessons that life teaches us all, and they made me what I am today."
Yeah, he's just wanting to get the jump on somebody. He thinks everybody
is out to get him. He's going to get him first,
or out to take advantage of him.
Yeah,
and like this reminds me of this guy I knew in high school. Mm-hmm. He was the manager of my high school baseball team, which you know what the manager is in high school sports. It's a guy who basically gets water and towels and shit like that.
Right.
And he was picked on all the time.
Yeah.
He wasn't the smartest kid ever or whatever. And he was just picked on and teased and it just not physically, but mostly just mentally and verbally,
Right.
And it made him so callous that when somebody was nice to him,
he didn't believe that it was them being nice.
Not only did he not believe that them was being nice, he would take advantage of that person. So if somebody was nice to him, he would go above and beyond to be like, "Oh, well, fuck you," or he would bully them now because it's like, "Oh, finally, I get to be on the hill. I'm going to take advantage of this bitch trying to be nice to me."
It's really unfortunate. That happens a lot with abused people. I mean, I don't want to generalize, say everyone that's abused young does it in return. A lot of them turn it around and do the opposite.
Right.
But a lot of people that are abused take the advantage later on to do that to someone else, and that's this case.
He was so calloused, and he never felt this position of power. So when someone was nice to him,
gave him the opportunity to do it back, he would
jump on it, be like, just everyday type things. He would just turn into a hateful argument.
Yeah. And so during this time, I think it's important to mention just the era that we're in. These were pre-war years, a time of craziness, frantic activity, and sweeping social change. It was a period of expansion in the United States, a rising financial boom that would come to an end with the collapse on Black Tuesday in 1929. So he's, like we talked about, it's the Wild West days. It's just
right.
This is like a time of this is post-Civil War. Violence is just accepted and known everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just...
Gosh, we have a violent history in America.
He was a product of so much that happened to him and the time that he was in, and it was just...
Yeah, they really like to sugarcoat that shit, but we had a violent history in America.
Oh, no doubt. Genocide and...
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
And that's just stuff that we know. I can't imagine what wasn't written about. Just like I said earlier with other prisoners that probably turned out just like Carl Panzram and have these crazy, just abusive lives and...
Yeah.
Didn't write because
later
they didn't know how. Maybe
what happened to him in the reform school, the jails and prisons did the same thing, and that was their way of reforming a prisoner, and it just made him worse. It seems.
And we'll get more into the torture of Panzram in prison here pretty soon.
So not too long while he's riding trains and stuff, he gets locked up in Butte, Montana for burglary, and he receives a sentence of 1 year in the Montana State Reform School at Miles City. In spring of 1906, he's 14 years old, and he arrives at the reform school. There, he would receive regular beatings from a particular guard. And when you have a vendetta against Karl Panzram, he's going to try and get you. And so Panzram,
he doesn't back down.
No, he takes this as a challenge, and he attempted to kill him. He attempted to kill this particular guard by bludgeoning him with a wooden plank in a hallway, and from there it became just tighter watch. He didn't actually succeed in killing the guy. He just hurt him, and then it just got worse for him. They tightened up their watch on him. More beatings ensued. In 1907, though, Panzram and another inmate, Jimmy Benson, escaped from the Montana State Reform School. So this would be the beginning. This is first escape, but first of many. This dude we talked about, he's a slippery minx here. They managed to steal several handguns in a nearby town and headed to the town of Terry. A quote, he says, "I stayed with him for about a month, hoboing our way east, stealing and burning everything we could." Now, a lot of his writings are very brash. This is a different time we're talking about. This isn't it's not PC culture now. He didn't care.
Right.
So around this time, we get another check mark in the serial killer box here. He's too young to join the army, but he runs into a recruiter at a bar, and he lies about his age. I believe he was about like 16, 17 at this time.
Right.
And he joins up in the army.
I feel like that's another common thing for this age.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for this time period.
Well, I mean, he we'll talk about it, but he ends up with a bunch of different aliases. And nobody has driver's licenses.
Right.
Like, it's not a normal thing to be driving.
Birth certificates, what?
Right. Yeah. It's just like you are who you say you are at that moment. So he joins the army, and after only a couple months, we've learned enough about Karl so far to know that he's probably not going to do too well in the army. He doesn't like authority, doesn't like being told what to do.
This is basically
reform school
in
all over again.
In perspective, it's another form of prison for him.
Yes. And so after only a couple months, he ends up stealing from the base. He's getting in trouble the whole time too. It's not just this, but this was the final straw. He steals from the base and he gets caught. He ends up receiving a 3-year sentence at the U.S. military prison in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. Now, his place makes him into even more of a beast.
This is like the old school prison. This is like black and white.
This is Hogwarts for becoming a badass.
Carrying down,
ball and chain,
literal ball and chain.
Yeah, like striped black and white outfit.
Right. You think of those like old Looney Tunes cartoons where like one of them went to prison and they're like, this is exactly what he looked like. He had like the black and white cap,
Yeah, so
it's like walking to go break rocks.
Exactly. Turning big rocks into little rocks.
Yeah.
So during the first 6 months at Leavenworth, he shackled to a 50-pound ball, and every day he had to load his 50-pound iron ball, 18-pound hammer, pick, and shovel into a wheelbarrow and march 3 miles into a rock quarry, then bust the rocks for 8.5 hours a day. So this is...
and then walk back.
This is the ultimate just strengthening of a dude that's already scary as shit.
Right.
I don't get it, man. It's like, just let him melt away,
No,
let him become weak,
stronger.
Yeah, let him become weak. Like, feed him like starchy stuff that makes him fat, and just let him become.
Yeah, don't put him on the ultimate workout plan.
I want some Jabba the Hutt prisoners. I don't want guys that are going to be able to revolt and like throw me through a wall.
These are dudes that carry around an extra 50 pounds all day.
Right,
all day.
Like, he's just going to take you and throw you with one arm. That's going to happen. He would end up being discharged from the military prison in 1910. He's 20 years old at that time. And a small quote from him: "I was the spirit of meanness personified."
Yeah, because during all this, he's just dwelling on all the shit that's been done to him.
Getting angrier
over the years,
and
just
angrier,
getting madder,
and stronger and stronger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just like if you guys look up the documentary that we mentioned earlier, Karl Panzram, The Spirit of Hatred and Vengeance, you'll see on the cover it's like a guy that looks like kind of ripped and he's got like a tattoo on his chest. Yeah. I imagine that's what he looked like right now. Like he's just fucking jacked, and he's angry at the world, and nothing's going to stand in his way right now. He's just a beast.
And so he begins his drifting again. For the next few years, he drifted across Kansas, Texas, and throughout the Southwest and made his way to California. During this time, he was busy. He was arrested several times for using the name Jeff Baldwin for vagrancy, burglary, arson, and robbery. One of his favorite things to do would be robbing churches.
Oh, yeah, he loved to rob them and just burn them down.
He's probably getting back at those reform schools partially, and then also they were just an easy mark,
They were.
Who's going to rob a church? Like you'd have to be a real dick to do that. And he was that guy.
Dude, real quick story.
Yeah.
This old southern church that I grew up in.
Down in North Carolina?
Yeah, in this little town, North Carolina, okay? and we were having service one night, and I was raised Southern Baptist, like everybody. This fucking lives in the Southeast probably. And it was at the end of church, and it was like customary, like we all go up to the front and pray, at the altar or whatever, quote unquote. And we hear the door open, and everybody, we kind of, everybody's kind of open, like, oh, somebody maybe wants to join us, or maybe
Carl Panzram.
God sends somebody our way. No, but so the door creaks open, right? And we had this jug in the back that we had collected offerings for like months. It was like full of fucking money.
Oh, they stole it?
And it was for like missionaries and shit.
Yeah.
They grabbed the damn jug.
No.
And bolted down the street.
Right in the middle of service?
Right in the middle of service.
Holy.
Like all the men of the church like got up and ran. The
That
dude
is
was
ballsy.
freaking fast. He was gone. Yeah, straight up stole from the church, man. They never caught him as far as we know.
Wow.
Right in the middle of service.
That's crazy.
So
that seems
people-
like something Panzram would do. He'd probably like flip you off and take it. And
Yeah. And then he'd probably like throw like a freaking Molotov cocktail in there on his way out.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so he's still riding trains. He's covering vast distances. He ends up spending time in Washington, Idaho, Oregon, and Utah. Police during this time are hot on his trail because every town he goes to, he's it's like Armageddon. When he rolls through, he's just breaking into all kinds of shit.
Hell yeah.
He loves to just. He's also sodomizing as he goes too. So it's not just like burglaries and stuff. It's like he's raping people. Like
Right.
It's just one of his favorite things to do, man. It's not even funny. It's
Right.
just
When we say he's the spirit of hatred and vengeance at this time, he really is.
Right.
Like, he really has no other purpose.
And
for
I wish
this.
he didn't do this shit because like there's times where I'm like, damn, this dude's badass. But then I'm like, fuck, why do you gotta go around raping people, you sick bastard? Like,
Yeah.
But it's a power thing for him, And I'm not
It is.
excusing it in any fashion. Like it's just gross. But
And like certain psychologists that studied him and stuff, obviously they didn't speak with him, but they've studied his case and things like that. Like they're not even convinced that it was for sexual pleasure.
Right.
It was just for dominance.
yeah.
He just wanted to be like, you're my bitch right now.
It was almost like
this is-
like dogs. Like a big dog comes in the room and it's got to like just I don't know. That's a fair comparison. It's probably a shitty comparison.
Well, no, it's very animalistic.
Yeah, it is.
To be like that. I mean, you think about like male lions and stuff. It's like, when when a male lion comes across another male lion, I mean, they're going to fight.
Yeah.
They're going to fight, and one of them's going to leave a bitch, and one of them's going to leave dominant.
Right.
I mean, that's just how it is.
Right.
And that's kind of what Carl Panzram was tapping into here. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's also escaping from jails in these towns. I can't imagine these jails being very high security. Like it's, probably Barney Fife small time jails. And this dude is
Well, they're not getting him for big crimes either.
True.
So he's not technically a what do you call it? A high risk prisoner.
Yeah.
They're just getting him for little burglaries.
and they don't know what he's done before. He's got an alias name,
Right.
So he ends up escaping from jails in Texas, Oregon. During this time, we've got a quote for just his mentality and what he's going around the country doing.
Yeah.
It says, "I burned down old barns, sheds, fences, snow sheds, or anything I could. And when I couldn't burn anything else, I would set fire to the grass on the prairies or the woods, anything and everything." So he's just like a hurricane coming through. Just
Yeah. Hurricane of fire.
when he would burglarize homes, he looked for guns first. He would randomly take pot shots at houses and farm animals while riding trains.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing. Like
He
even
said
just
when he would steal
walking-
guns, he would buy ammo. That was like the only thing he would buy, just so that he
Right.
could take random shots at whatever.
Yeah, even just walking and traveling through towns,
Yeah.
he would just shoot out windows for no reason, hoping that he would hit somebody.
Which is conflicting that he says he would shoot at animals because later on he's like
I was just about to.
part of
yep.
the reason people like him is because he was kind of an animal activist in some sense.
He was
like,
a nature activist,
The only
he
thing
claimed.
he liked was the only thing he truly like cared for at all in the world was nature and animals. He says, wild
Yeah,
animals.
he believed the human race should be completely demolished, and the world should be left to nature and animals.
Yeah.
But then you're gonna go shoot farm animals. Or
Maybe that was part of his backlash against humans and civilization. It was farm animals. So it was
he's like, you fucking farm animals are helping the humans.
or it was like, I'm going to get back at these humans by killing their farm animals.
Yeah.
Maybe it was about pissing off or like, making those people upset about killing.
Maybe he just didn't like domesticated animals.
I don't know,
It's like
man.
you're on the wrong team, domesticated
Right.
animals.
Who do you think you are, human?
Yeah.
During the summer of 1911, as Jefferson Davis in Fresno, California, that was his alias at the time, he was arrested for stealing a bicycle. He was sent to the county jail for 6 months, but escaped after only 30 days.
And this is another example, just a little petty crime. So
Yep.
they didn't take him serious. He's under a different alias.
Yeah.
And he gets
You
out
can't blame
again.
him for not taking that. He stole a bicycle. Like,
Yeah, it's not serious.
right.
It's not
I
serious
think if
now.
you steal my bike, you just deserve a bitch slap more than anything.
Yeah. What the fuck's wrong?
What are you doing? Yeah. Especially in this time. Like, that's a freaking really petty crime during that time. Like, people are getting, like, shot all the time.
I don't know. They didn't have. Did they have cars yet? What do you?
They were in the early 1900s. I'm
the
sure, like,
Model
probably
T
rich
out yet?
people did.
The Model A.
Probably just rich people. I don't know.
Right.
We're coming from a real ignorant standpoint here.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're
It's just bullshit
like,
about.
we're not going to Google it.
I'll just bullshit facts.
Yeah. On June 1st, 1915, he burglarizes a house in Astoria, Oregon, but was arrested soon after while attempting to sell some of the stolen items. He was then sentenced to 7 years in prison to be served at Oregon State Penitentiary in Salem. Man, this is a tough stay here in Salem, Oregon. This is known as one of the toughest prisons in the country during this time.
Right.
When he first got there and they were kind of trying to figure out who he was, he listed his birthplace as Alabama. We mentioned that he was going by he was going by Jefferson Baldwin during this time.
Yeah.
He under occupation he put thief.
I wonder where. Please hire me, sir.
Right.
What's your experience, son? Well, I'm a thief.
Yeah. And this is showdown time here. What do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, the Model A was invented in 1908.
Okay. Yeah. So
I doubt he could.
Rich people had it.
Yeah, I was about to say I doubt he could afford one.
No,
so.
rich people had it. It became the Ford factory, the Ford family. They started making cars more affordable later on, and normal people started getting them. But I think that was years later.
Yeah, like 1920s, late 1920s is when they became more popular.
This is a showdown here, classic showdown between Carl Panzram and the warden of this prison in Oregon at the time, Harry Minto, who believed in harsh treatment of inmates, including beatings and isolation, among other disciplinary measures.
Oh yeah, so we know that works for him. Let's keep doing that shit.
Oh yeah, he loves it.
Yeah, right. Eats that shit up.
Yeah. Minto endorsed the Auburn system by which prisoners would be punished even if they uttered one word out of line. They were frequently shackled to walls and hung from rafters for hours, sometimes days at a time. Inmates were whipped with a cat of nine tails. Like,
oh yeah, if you guys know anything, that's supposedly that's what Christ was crucified with. You know, he was whipped with the cat of nine tails, and it's like a whip, and it has 9 pieces of leather hanging off of it, and at the end of them are like these metal, almost claw shaped things, and when they hit your back, they literally dig in and then pull out flesh, and just keep doing that over and over again.
Yeah. On his record of discipline for the prison, on January 1st, 1916, it shows that he was hung for 10 hours a day for 2 days for hammering, rising a disturbance in a cell, and cursing an officer. So, hung for 10 hours a day for 2 days, 20 hours in a 2-day span. He was hung by rafters for rising a disturbance and cursing at an officer. So this prison did not mess around, and just making him into more of a hate-filled.
So did it say, was he hung? He was hung, I guess, by his arms, by his wrists?
Yeah, I think he's hung by his wrist during this time. Now we've got more.
Now in Washington D.C., we got something else going on.
It's even worse.
Okay.
I think I prefer this type of thing
hell
for what he got later. He was later found to be in possession of a blackjack and thrown into the dungeons for 3 weeks with only bread and water. Now, I had to look up what a blackjack was, because there's many meanings. You know, you think about the card game right offhand, but apparently a blackjack can also be like a leather, some kind of a small weapon that you can, almost like a baton, some kind of a club, a little club or something. So for that, he was thrown in the dungeons, quote unquote, for 3 weeks with only bread and water. A quote from him: "They stripped us naked and chained us up to a door. And then they turned the fire hose on us until we were black and blue and half blind." Now, that's brutal right there.
That is brutal.
This
is just high-powered, This was like slave torture, pretty much.
It's crazy, man. It's like, a person goes to prison and you're just going to torture them the whole time. That's the way things were back then.
Yep.
You know?
Well, they're trying to instill fear in the other prisoners, you know? They're trying to make example out of everyone that speaks out.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure what am I looking at? The ratio of prison guards to prisoners is probably not what it is now.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the facilities that they do now. So
they wanted them to not have any revolting or anything. So it was just like beat them down until they have nothing to say.
Yeah, have no inclination of
make
rebel.
them so afraid to do anything.
Exactly.
I mean, that's definitely not the right way to go about things, in my opinion. I like the way we do it now, where we try to give them resources to better themselves while they're in prison. You know, like let them educate themselves. Let them That's just the way I feel. Like,
I agree. I think we could do an even better job of it. But yeah, I think that's the right way to go.
I think we've evolved, and that's a better way to go about
Yeah.
it than obviously than this medieval shit that they were
Well,
doing.
Red
back
Wing is proof that we've evolved.
then. Yeah. Oh, no doubt. That school is much better now.
Right.
During his stay in Oregon, he started several fires and burned down 3 buildings at different times. It's like we say that line like it's just like, yeah, he built down 3. That's not normal shit, man. And for this, he received 61 days in solitary where he ended up eating cockroaches for food.
Protein, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, gotta do what you gotta do. He survived.
Yeah.
In September 18th, 1917, you're not going to keep him locked up before he tries to escape, at least. He does escape in September 18th, 1917. 2 days later, he gets seen by an officer, and a shootout ensues. The officer prevails.
Apparently, he stole another gun.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's assumed with this guy.
Yeah.
He's a wizard.
He's always.
The shootout ensues. The cop prevails. He ends up getting put back in prison for almost another year. And then on May 12th, 1918, he ends up successfully escaping from Oregon prison.
That slippery bastard.
Yeah. I mean, he sawed through the window bars using a hacksaw blade. How the hell you get a hold of a hacksaw blade?
How the fuck you gonna give Carl Panzram a hacksaw blade?
Or access to it, or
Why would you give any prisoner a hacksaw blade? How are they even? There's a lot of.
I'm
jobs.
just going off the information that I got.
Listen,
man.
there's a lot of jobs he had in prison, quote unquote jobs,
He probably shouldn't have.
where he had way too much access.
They don't know what they were dealing with. I don't
really
think they
don't.
knew because he was going from state to state with different aliases. I don't think they knew what this guy was capable of. They should have after he escaped the first fucking time, though. A year before.
Well, they need to take pictures.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Can you fax us a picture of this guy's headshot?
Right.
Can you messenger pigeon us a headshot of this guy?
Like, somebody draw it, please.
Somebody try.
He used his hacksaw blade and to cut through the bars, and then he jumped down off the prison walls. He ran off into the Oregon woods and hopped a train heading east.
Of course he did.
Yeah. In the summer, he just goes from coast to coast, back and forth on trains. Like, right. I've run out my resources over here. I've burned too many bridges. I need to go back west again. So in the summer of 1920, he's in New Haven, Connecticut, robbing homes and churches, as he does.
That's what he do.
In August that year, he found a house located at 113 Whitney Avenue. Now, this isn't just your average home.
Okay.
This is just adds to the legend of this guy. So this home on 113 Whitney Avenue happened to be the home of William Taft, the former president at the time and current Secretary of War at the time.
Right.
Yeah, and Taft was actually the guy that got him. He signed the bill saying that he would go to Leavenworth military prison initially.
Right.
Now, this isn't some revenge plot, though, that, in our opinion, this isn't some revenge plot by Panzram to get back at Taft. It just so happened to be like a badass looking house.
Yeah, some people speculate. They're like, oh, he knew it was Taft's. But I don't think he fucking
No,
knew.
he just saw a big colonial house that looked like it had a shitload of money
Yeah.
and like an easy mark for him. So
This guy was just looking to just pirate anybody he came across. He
Right.
wasn't looking for anybody in particular.
But it did happen to have a lot of shit in it. He from Taft's house, he stole a large amount of jewelry, some bonds, and a .45 caliber handgun. And for the stuff that he stole, the bonds and the jewelry, he got about $3,000, which in today's dollars, $3,000 in 1920 equates to about $38,000 in today's money.
Right, and you'll see a lot of articles and stuff that say he stole 38,000 or
40
grand from Taft, and that's actually not the case.
That would have been almost $500,000 if it was actually
exactly. He actually stole 3,000, but it is the equivalent of stealing 40 grand from somebody,
Right.
almost 40 grand from somebody now.
enough to buy a yacht.
Right,
Which is
right.
what he did. He bought a yacht called the Akista, is what he named it. He registered the boat under his name that he was going by, John O'Leary. So therefore, he became Captain John O'Leary.
Captain John O'Leary.
Sounds so
You're saying it
distinguished.
wrong.
His name, this was his New York area alias that he would go by. And then he devised a plan to rob and kill sailors that would come in on leave. So they would go out, sail, do
Right.
their thing.
I don't think it was really a plan. I think he just pulled up to docks and was like, "Hey,
You guys
come
got it.
sailing with me."
You guys seem like you got a lot of stuff, and
Yeah.
I can. So we got a quote. This is what he was thinking. Then I figured it would be a good plan to hire a few sailors to work for me, get them out of my yacht, get them drunk, commit sodomy on them, rob them, and then kill them. This I done. So what he would do is he would take these sailors out on his boat.
Right.
He would get them to bring their stuff. He would get them drunk, sodomize them, kill them, and then he would take their bodies out on like a freaking paddle boat and
Yeah.
dump them out with a rock attached.
I really think this is one of those stories where people are like, bullshit.
Why do you think?
They're calling bullshit because he's taken groups of military.
Well, no, it wasn't groups. He was taking one at a time during this time, and it was 10 people, but it was over the course of weeks. So he would take. They would come in on their boats. They'd be on leave. They'd be hanging out. They'd have nothing to do between jobs, and so he would take them out for work.
One sailor at a time.
Yes, or one.
Now there is a story where he says that there was multiple sailors and he shot them all in the head.
That was later in Africa. That's how crazy this fucking guy's life is. Okay? It's hard to keep track of all the shit.
No, I'm just saying, like, this is. I don't know. I just find it hard to believe.
From what I understood,
one guy at a time.
From what I understood, this was over the course of weeks, and he would take a sailor out. He would get him to bring their stuff out on his boat to work, and then he would, do his thing, kill him.
Okay,
and he would
that's
take
a
him
little
out.
more believable then.
And he said it was 10 different guys, and it was over the course of weeks. And then he started getting noticed by the locals, going, like this dude, Captain O'Leary, showed up out of nowhere.
Hey,
he's taking
Dave?
people out. He's coming back with stuff, like wearing their watches and shit. And all of a sudden, we're like, they're getting more and more suspicious. So he noticed the idea that people are picking up on what he's doing. So he ends up taking 2 guys. So maybe it was one guy at a time, maybe it was 2 guys at a time, but it wasn't like large groups of people.
Okay.
So then when he started feeling all the
Let
pressure,
this slide for now.
Okay. All right, Officer fucking Michael. He would take 2 guys and sail down the coast of New Jersey with his last 2 passengers until he reached Long Beach Island, where he intended to kill them both, although Mother Nature stepped in.
Right.
A huge gale hit, and the Akista was smashed into pieces against rocks. He, along with the 2 guys that he had on the ship, barely survived, and they got away from him. Probably, it's like, I barely survived.
I can just picture him
This
swimming
guy's
after
bad
him.
luck here.
You bastard, get back here!
Right? Yeah. I was going to kill you.
I was gonna kill you.
And in 1921, he would serve 6 months in jail in Bridgeport, Connecticut for burglary and possession of a loaded handgun. When released,
Small time.
yeah, this is just another day, another dollar.
What a joke.
When released, he joined a maritime union that was involved in labor strikes. So he basically, the gist of it is, he found a way to work for beating people up. So the union had strikers, and he was paid to go beat up the strikers and get them to go back to work.
Right. Give me that damn picket sign.
Yeah, exactly.
You like my sound effects?
Beautiful. It sounds like an old cheesy video game from the 90s.
Finish him.
He was quickly then rearrested for being involved in running gun battle with police. I don't know what that even means, but he quickly after jumped bail and fled the state of Connecticut.
I think a running gun battle is like police are chasing you and you're running and you're just like shooting backwards.
Yeah, that sounds very
spitballing here.
Panzram to me.
Yeah, he was probably just creating a
Ruckus.
Ruckus or a reputation in the town, and
they came after him and he shot at him.
Yeah. It's good old boy stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so he jumped bail. He fled the state of Connecticut, and a few days later, he stowed away on a ship. He's like, you know what? I think I've caused enough trouble in America for a while. I need to get out of here. I need to get off this continent.
Yeah, get off this continent.
This continent can't handle me anymore. So he stows away on a ship, which is headed down to Africa, and he lands in Angola, a Portuguese colony on the west coast of Africa.
And here we go with the bullshit. I don't know, man.
You know about this one?
Yeah, I just don't know about this because
there is a news clipping of a picture of a white guy with some Africans that he claims is him.
But it's like the picture of damn Bigfoot. It's like it's far away, it's fuzzy, he's like stepping over a fucking log. You're like, I don't know, it could be him. I think so.
He says it's him.
It says it's him. I don't know.
And he did read the news frequently, so he
Like
could have
he's
seen a
only
clipping with a white guy and it's like, that's me.
Like he's the only fucking white guy in Africa.
Yeah.
Even though there's tons of white people in like South Africa.
Yeah.
Man, fuck that, man. I don't know.
Anyway, so he claims, this is his story, that he stowed away. He ended up in Angola, a Portuguese colony on the west coast of Africa. He says he got a job with the Sinclair Oil Company as a foreman. I mean, how do you just go straight to foreman, too?
With his resume, give me a
Right.
break.
Hey, I'm sodomized. I'm real good at oil drilling.
I thieve.
Jesus. It's dark. I'm sorry for that really terrible
Whoa.
joke.
Oh, I just caught that one.
Yeah, that's bad.
You suck.
I stumbled into that one.
All right.
While working for Sinclair, he claims to have lured, raped, and killed a 12-year-old boy. Now, that is not funny at all. That's
No, this is not funny.
Super dark, and I'm not going to go into the details because he does in his
These are not my favorite characteristics of Panzram.
No, he's a piece of shit scumbag. Yeah. There's details in his writings that you can go into with this if you're interested at all. I've heard it once because I did the studying for this, but we're not going to talk about what he did to this boy. It was pretty dark and terrible. After this murder, he lived for several weeks in a fishing village in Lobito Bay on the Atlantic coast. Several weeks later, he hired 6 natives to take him out into the jungle and hunt for crocodiles. Now, it sounds good.
Here we go.
Apparently, like, the crocodiles were worth a lot to Europeans that were visiting the
Dude,
Congo.
crocodiles are worth a lot now. But
Yeah. I mean, so he talked these natives into going out and hunting these crocodiles. They hunt crocodiles, and then the natives wanted to demand the cut of the profits. To which he
was like, "Yeah, I'll give you a cut of the profits."
Yeah, come out with me, I'll give you a cut. So he took them down the river, and claims to have shot all 6 of them and then thrown them and fed them to the crocs. Now, I'm with you, man. This whole African journey that he talks about, it just seems a little fishy to me.
This is one of those things, man.
He's got a damn good imagination if he just came up with this, though, you know? And almost every other thing in his story has been corroborated. Like, you can't really corroborate some shit that happened in Africa in the early 1900s. Like, where's the records of this village?
Exactly.
This village, there's no records. Like,
exactly. And you say he's like really creative. I mean, yeah, maybe. But at the same time, this dude has spent years in prison. He's got plenty of time to think of this shit.
yeah.
Especially by the time he wrote this.
Yeah.
I mean,
No doubt.
I'm not saying. I mean, I hope it's true.
I hope he didn't kill this 12-year-old boy in Africa.
Well, no.
For that sake, you know. I hope he made it up for that sense.
Well, yeah, but that's probably the thing he didn't. I believe that more than I believe him killing six
People in the
6
tribe.
men,
Yeah.
African men who were probably
Shooting them all. He said
probably
this is the way he said it
armed.
went down. He said he shot them like in the body, and then when they were down in the raft or the boat, then he walked up and shot them all in the head. And it's like,
Fuck.
usually
no.
he had a revolver. How many rounds are in this revolver? First of all,
6 max. There's no fucking way.
Like if you shoot the first guy, you're on a little freaking like
Yeah, the other
raft
dudes are
going
like,
down the river.
"What the
in
hell,
Africa."
man?
Right? They're gonna. I feel like
Yeah.
the 5 are gonna jump on you. You
hell
know?
yeah.
I don't know.
They're gonna take his ass out, man.
This
Come
one's a little
on.
fishy, pun intended.
And chances are they're probably on a damn little ass canoe or something like that too, right? Weren't they?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's not like he's on the poop deck and they're like hanging down in the cabin.
Yeah.
No, they're all right there together within feet of each other. And you're saying you shot 6 guys
Yeah.
twice each.
Yeah.
Come on, man. With a revolver? What'd you do? Fucking reload while they're all Come on.
I don't know, man.
Get
It's
out of
a
here.
little weird. He claims that he then had pressure in this area, so he then made his way down to the Canary Islands to Portugal. The police were looking for him. He managed to hide aboard another ship and headed back to America. He arrived in the summer of 1922. He's back in Connecticut now. He considered becoming a hitman. This part of the story is like it got a little bit off the rails here.
Yeah.
Listen to this. So he claims that he really considered becoming a hitman because it's like he's like it's really easy to kill people. I've realized, and so he goes to get a silencer put on his pistol.
Yeah.
And then the silencer wasn't quiet enough, so then he's like, I guess I just won't be a hitman.
You know what? Never mind.
I changed my mind.
Hey, buddy, did you hear that shot? Yeah, I heard it. Nah, never mind.
And then he goes over and shoots that guy. All right, no hitman for me. He then began a search for a new boat resembling the Akista. So he's making his way down the coast on the northeast coast of New York area.
Yeah.
He ended up in Salem, Massachusetts. There, on the afternoon of July 18th, 1922, he came across another 12-year-old boy who was walking alone. And we won't go into detail on this one either, but basically he sodomized and killed this little boy. And this one, there is actually a body.
He beat this boy to death. He beat this boy to death with a rock.
Yeah, and there is the body would be later found, and this is a real thing that happened. Now, did he do it, or did he see it in the news and claim that he did it? These are things that we don't know, because later on there's
Lauren, you think he's seen it in the news in fucking 1922? I don't think he's seen it in the news.
Why not? There's newspapers back then in the New York area. He could have seen it. He watched this stuff. I mean, he could have been one of those egomaniacs that wanted to claim that he did a lot of stuff, you know. I don't know, maybe.
Like I said, these things like this, I think totally could have done.
Oh, he could have done, for sure. He said he hated all of humanity.
He
wanted to
preyed
take
on
out
the
his
weak.
anger on everybody.
He preyed on the unsuspecting.
Yeah. And this is a quote from him. He said, "You will find that I have consistently followed one idea throughout my life. I preyed upon the weak, the harmless, and the unsuspecting."
Yeah.
The boy's name was George Henry McMahon. He sodomized and killed the boy, covered up the body with tree branches, and hurried out of town. The body would be found 3 days later. 2 men did witness someone resembling Panzram fleeing the scene, and later on, when he would get his final arrest, they would actually come and ID him and say he looks like the guy we saw running from this
Right.
area. So I mean, there's
Like I said, that's not that unbelievable. I
Right.
mean, he preyed on a 12-year-old boy. I mean, I kind of believe that, but some of the other shit, I feel like he's trying to make himself into this badass outlaw hero type.
right continent conquering. Just
No.
Yeah.
I don't know about all that shit.
yeah.
He's mixing in some exaggerations here, I believe, but who knows? Maybe not.
Right. Yeah, and some more shit happened shortly thereafter. He claims to have, this is June of 1923, he claims to have shot a man who tried to rob him using a .38 pistol that he had stolen from a police chief in New Rochelle, New York. He then made his way to Larchmont, which was a small, well-groomed village in the south shore of Westchester County. This is up in the Connecticut area, Connecticut state line. On the night of August 26, 1923, he broke into the Larchmont train depot in Chatsworth Avenue, on Chatsworth Avenue. Using an axe he found outside, he shattered the large window and crawled inside. He found dozens of suitcases, which belonged to passengers. And there happened to be a police officer there, though. And there's a struggle that happened. He ended up being apprehended.
Right.
And he was going by John O'Leary at the time. He attempted to, so he's arrested.
A police officer was apparently a beast.
Yeah.
If
That's just crazy. There's several times throughout this thing. He's like, you picture him as this world beater, and then there's times where police get the upper hand on him and bring him in.
Yeah, because Carl had an axe,
Right.
apparently, or at least had access to an axe, whether or not.
Well, I
he
mean, if a
used
police
it.
officer had a gun, maybe he could, walk
But
him
it says
down with that.
a struggle ensued. But yeah, I mean that's.
But I
that's
mean,
pretty,
this is a long time ago. So
That's
I mean,
excellent police work, actually.
Yeah. No matter how it happened, he ends up in custody, and he tries to make a plea bargain, and he made a deal with like his attorney and stuff, but the attorney apparently screwed him over.
Yeah.
And he was given the maximum sentence of 5 years, which was supposed to be at Sing Sing prison. But during this time, men like Panzram, who were hardened criminals, they were hard to control. They pretty much Sing Sing wasn't for him. They would take guys like him and they would send him upstate to Clinton prison.
Yeah, his reputation's catching up to him here. He's unable to hide behind aliases and things like that. The people are starting to wise up finally, apparently.
Yeah. And so he's sent to New York's Clinton prison, which is better known as Dannemora, or the Hellhole, the place of no return, and America's most brutal and repressive prison institution.
Pretty sure it's where Batman was.
Yeah. I'm Batman. I'm in the hellhole.
You don't get out unless you climb out.
So there, of course, I mean, even Dannemora is going to have a hard time dealing with this guy because he is Panzram. While there, he devised a firebomb in the workshop, which the guards there discovered. So they foiled his plan there to burn this place down, which he's done several times in the past.
Got away with the two of one of your pesky guards.
Right. He then tried to kill a guard. That didn't work out for him.
How many times has he tried to do that? I mean, let's be real.
Yeah. I mean, he attempted escape. How many times has he tried that and succeeded? He climbed. This is the one though that got him. This is his breaking point. This prison. He finally met his match with this prison.
Yeah.
This is the beginning of the end. Here is this prison. Clinton prison broke him.
Right. Let's give a little detail of the security, though. This prison was surrounded by a 30-foot wall, 30 foot above ground,
30 foot up and 30 foot down,
and below.
So 60 feet of wall, 30 underground, 30. It's like an iceberg. You can't dig under it. You can't climb over it. He tried to climb over it.
Yeah.
He came the closest. If you talk to guards there now to this day, according to the documentary we watched, you talk to guards there now, they still is like there's legend of how close he came to actually escaping and how no one has ever done what he had done.
Here's my thing though. Okay, so he stole this fencing material and supposedly built this ladder. Makeshift ladder. I don't know how the hell he got access to all this damn fencing material, but what the fuck? It's 1920s. Apparently they let him have saw blades and shit in prison. So he's climbing it, right? He gets to the top. Okay. Spoiler alert, he falls.
Hold on, I just had this image of like in a jail, sorry to sidetrack, but like the saw blade things, like I had this image of them like, how am I supposed to eat my steak dinner? Let me get a saw blade.
Yeah, let me get that saw blade. So anyways.
The steak's real tough.
All right, so spoiler alert, he falls, okay, trying to climb up. 30 feet.
Supposedly 30 feet.
Okay.
That means he must have gotten close to the top if the wall is 30 feet.
Okay, well let's say he succeeds.
Right.
Okay. How the fuck are you going to get down on the other side,
He's
Einstein?
going to take that giant 30-foot ladder, flip it up over the top.
No.
He's Panzram, bro. He can do anything.
Gosh. Like, what was your plan, man?
I guess he was just going to fall on the other side and then just be fucking destroyed like he was when he fell off this side.
He was gonna jump over the side in superhero land.
You know, that's a good point, because what happened was he ends up falling 30 feet on the inside prison side.
Yeah, he doesn't make it.
And the result is that he broke his legs, broke his ankles, his spine, and his spine was badly injured. And the prison said, you know what? Fuck you. We're not going to help you. He received no medical attention for his injuries. He was carried to a cell and dropped on the floor and left there.
Yeah, they use that as an example. They're like, hey, look, you try to climb over this wall, this is going to be you. Mm-hmm. And he crawled around for weeks.
And so
he could not walk.
From then on, he never walked normal again. He always walked with a limp. He was, jacked up ever since then. I think that was mentally, that was like the last straw where he didn't feel like he could cause destruction, or maybe he ends up testing it after he gets out. So he serves, this is one of the few places he actually served his full term. After his release, he was so he spent his whole 5 years there.
5 years, right?
5 long, hard years. He was discharged permanently, crippled by lack of medical attention. After his release, he was consumed by revenge, and within 2 weeks, he committed a dozen burglaries and killed at least one man during a robbery in Baltimore. By that time, he was arrested and delivered to the Washington, D.C. jail. Now, when he shows up there, he has this reputation that he shows up with, and by this time he's 6 feet tall, around 200 pounds, and we will describe the tattoos he has at this time. He's a sign of his past, and it's
kind of a badass tattoo, if I'm honest.
So he has a large tattoo of a boat anchor on his left forearm, another anchor on with an eagle.
Well, he's obviously a Popeye fan, but yeah, go ahead.
With another ankle with an eagle and the head of a Chinese man on his right forearm, and the 2 eagles on his massive chest with the words "Liberty and Justice" tattooed underneath their wings. Now, if you look at the documentary, that's the cover, is a picture of a jacked dude with like this tattoo of liberty and justice on his chest. And so,
which I would like to hear him define those, but yeah,
right.
Go ahead.
Well, he knows about justice, I suppose. I mean, the shit that if he really did this stuff to these 12-year-old boys, then he deserved everything he got in all of these prisons. Not to say that the prisons were doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But like, if anyone deserved what they got, it was this dude. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But what about? But
I'm not bummed that he got punished like this, because if he really did these things to these little boys, and
but the problem with Panzram is this harsh punishment came before the harsh crimes.
That's true.
That's what sucks for him, and that's what. It makes me almost empathize with him a tiny bit, because these harsh punishments came long before the crimes. Yeah. And there's evidence of that from Red Wing, and these little petty things that he did to get sent there. And then the second reformatory school, he asked to send there. He asked his mother to be sent there. Yeah. So he hadn't really done anything horrible at this time.
Right. Just been punished up until that point.
Right. Yeah. So what do you expect from a person like that?
Yeah, I mean, what we mentioned earlier, you could go either way. You could say, I'm not going to be like that and I'm going to be good, or you can just store all that hate and take it out on everyone else that doesn't deserve it, and that's what he chose to do. And that's where I differ with you. I don't think...
No, I'm not saying it's justified. I'm just saying there's a little part of me that empathizes with
that's what's interesting about his story. Is that it's like, was he created by the system during this time? Was he just hate-filled monster because of his experiences? For sure, that's part of it.
Yeah.
So after booking at the D.C. jail, he gave his real name for the first time in years. That's why, I mean, he seemed like he's broke at this time. It seemed like he went on that rampage after getting...
I think he's at the I don't give a fuck moment right here.
He's just like, just kill me at this point. I think that's why he went on that rampage when he got out of Clinton prison. And so he gives his real name to the jail in D.C. During his first few days there, he made several remarks about killing children. Inquiries were made in other states, and word came back to several jurisdictions that he was a hunted man. During this time, there was a 26-year-old rookie guard, the son of a Jewish immigrant, who was hired that year. His name was Henry Lesser.
Yeah.
Henry Lesser was a different guy.
He's kind of the Bernie Sanders.
He was idealistic.
1920s.
Yeah, he was idealistic. He was progressive. He wasn't your typical guard that Panzram had come across by any stretch. Like, this guy actually had compassion. He realized these prisoners were people.
Right.
And they were, and he wanted to get to know Panzram.
Very social-minded.
He had heard upon Panzram's arrival that this dude was not to be messed with. He was, he'd heard some things, and Panzram shows up talking about all this stuff he's done, bragging about it.
Right.
And Henry Lesser, once the word had gotten around this jail in D.C. that he was such a badass, the other guards thought it would be a good idea, and like the warden at this jail at the time thought it'd be a good idea to take him down to the basement where we mentioned some hanging stuff earlier.
Oh gosh, this is the worst.
The hanging at this jail, their way of doing it was tying your wrists together behind a pole.
Behind a pole.
And
That's
lifting your hands up above your head to where your feet were almost off the ground. You can only imagine the amount of pain that your shoulders would be under.
They would lift him off the ground.
Would they?
They would
to where his
lift
feet were
him-
just off the ground?
Yes.
Yeah.
They would lift him off the ground by his wrist. With your arms behind your back. Just imagine that. Have you ever had somebody stand behind you and just lift your arms? And, to stretch
A little bit hurts, but
Imagine
like continue to go and go and go.
until you're lifted off the ground. I mean,
Yeah.
that's hell. And they would have a doctor come in like every hour.
Yeah.
And check on him to make sure that I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the hell he's doing unless he's doing a fucking X-ray. How are you
Right.
going to know that his tendons
Right.
aren't ripping in his rotator his rotator cuff? There's no way you would know.
Right.
So I think this was
And
all
not only that, but they were
bullshit.
whipping you too while you were lifted up by
Yeah,
that.
it's
too.
bullshit. The doctor's probably coming in and be like, "Hey," he's like, "Yeah, he's still alive."
Yeah.
I mean, I can't see how you would do anything else, especially
Yeah.
not in late 1920s.
Yeah. So Lesser got word that this had been going on to him, that they were punishing him down in the basement like this, and Lesser actually felt bad for him and had another guard give him $1 from Lesser's.
Yeah.
Lesser had $1 sent to Panzram's cell,
Right.
courtesy of him, and said this is from.
Panzram's like, "What the fuck?"
And
Is
he
this
didn't know
some
how to
kinda-
take it.
Some kind of joke?
Right. Panzram didn't know
Yeah.
how to take it at all. He's like, "What? Like,
Are you trying to?
Is
Is
this-
this a form of torture? Are you going
Right.
to take this shit back, or am
right,
I going to get?
if I take this $1, are you gonna like fucking?
Yeah, are you going to beat me?
Yeah. But he would soon learn after talking more with Lesser that he was sincerely had some kind of sympathy for him, wanted to hear
Yeah.
his story. They began talking, and Lesser would soon convince him to start writing his story of his life because, obviously Panzram's there. He's talking about all the stuff he's done and all the places he's been and this and that. Lesser wants to hear it. He thinks he has a story to tell, and he actually starts sneaking in sheets of paper and pencil, which the prisoners were not, the jail mates, I guess this is a jail, the jail mates
Yeah.
weren't allowed to have this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And day by day, Panzram started, and at first he was reluctant. He's like, I only have a 6th grade education. I can't,
Right,
I don't know
right.
what you want me to do here.
Yeah.
But the Lesser convinces him, just start writing. And so
Yeah.
before you know it, there would end up being a 20,000 word confession and his life story, basically, which would be everything we come to know about Panzram to this day, aside from the stuff that we've been able to, not we, but
Right.
people have been able to recover from all the different institutions he's been in, all the different jails and prisons he's been in.
Right. Now I think we're underplaying Henry Lesser's role in this.
Without Lesser, we don't know
Without
shit
Lesser,
about
we don't know
Panzram's life.
We don't know shit.
Now, whether it's true or not,
This-
it's still fun, like to try and figure out whether a lot of this stuff is
because this stuff didn't get published until 1970.
right.
Okay, so that means Lesser held on to this and kept trying to get it published year after year after year.
Yeah.
And then finally,
Yeah.
so it's his persistence that brought this story to our life, whether true or not. I mean, it's still kind of amazing.
Yeah. And the Panzram papers are actually still, like the original papers are still in San Diego State
Yeah,
University.
like we said before, and you guys can check it out on the website,
Yeah.
San Diego State University website.
And if you
You
go
can-
there in person, you can see the papers in person as well.
right.
Okay, so we got to go more into this though. So he's writing this confession for Henry Lesser. He's taking a page every day. Like he'd write a page, Lesser would take it.
Yep.
He'd bring him a new page, and that was going on during that time. Though there's word getting out to the press that there's a story of a sadistic killer in the local jail who'd been confessing to a lot of murders.
Right.
The Washington Post picked it up and reported on October 28th, 1928, that Panzram confessed to the murder of 14-year-old Alexander Lusuk, and also that a 12-year-old named Henry McMahon in New Salem, Connecticut, that we had discussed earlier.
It's interesting to me that Panzram knew the names of these victims. Is that not interesting to you?
That's what I'm saying. Maybe he was looking at the news and claiming credit for these. How would he know?
That's super interesting.
No, you know what? I don't think he actually did say that he knew. I think they connected the dots. He said the time and
They
place
connected the
and where the
dots.
body would be,
Okay.
which would play more to him actually doing it. So I don't think, now that I think about it, what I read, it sounded like he didn't actually know the names, but they connected dots to those.
Okay. 'Cause I was gonna say if he knew the names, that's
Right.
different.
Little iffy.
Yeah.
Each day that went by, Panzram told more and more. Quote, "If that ain't enough," he said, I'll give you plenty more. I've been all over the world. I've seen everything but hell, and I guess I'll see that soon." So we get the story being written. On October 29th, an arrest warrant for Panzram arrived at the D.C. jail. It was a murder indictment for the Philadelphia charging Panzram with a homicide of Alexander Uzadak by strangling and choking on July 26, 1928. Basically they're throwing the book at him now. They realize what they've got here.
And he's like, fuck it.
He was initially put in this jail for the robbery of a house in D.C., but then they start, he's confessing to all this stuff. They're connecting dots, and basically he gets transferred to. Kind of funny. He gets transferred to Leavenworth Prison. Now this isn't the same Leavenworth that he was transferred to, the military prison. This is another Leavenworth in Kansas, and when he gets there, he's basically sentenced to 25 years at Leavenworth for the burglary, and then they're also compiling the fact that they know they've got something more than just this burglary, so they give him 25 years, and basically they're planning on trying to get a case together for other stuff that he's done. And when he gets to Leavenworth, he knows this is the end. He says, "I'll kill the first man that bothers me."
Yeah.
And he ain't lying. No. And so there's a guy, while he's there, he's been dealing with this certain guard in the laundry.
Yeah, he's working in the laundry, and this guy keeps I guess just
giving him shit. Like he uses certain bleach, and the guy's giving him shit for it.
Yeah.
And so on July 20th or June 20th, 1929, he would kill the guard. The guard's name was Robert Warnke, beating him to death with a large iron bar in front of all the other inmates. There's 12 other people in the room, and when he got done killing Robert Warnke, he turned and started going after those guys, trying to kill them as well. I think putting on a show.
I wonder
at that
what
point
happened was he was like, "You can't use bleach on the orange jumpsuit, you dipshit." And he was like, "What did you say?"
Right.
He started going after him with the iron.
You're turning up peach colored.
Why can't we have these salmon colored?
Right. And so this is actually the only true murder that is like proven, like people witnessed it in person, and we know he did this.
This is one of the main things that draws me back all the way the other way. You know how I said where he shot the 6 guys in Africa or whatever? I'm like, oh, bullshit. But then when I hear this, I'm like, wait a minute. This motherfucker could have done all this shit. Because he goes after, what is it, like 10 other inmates come in after he kills
12,
Warnke?
I believe. Yeah.
Okay, a dozen inmates come in after he kills Warnke, and he just goes after him.
I feel
like a fucking animal.
Now, there's some people that say that, okay, so when he's at the D.C. jail and he's writing this thing for lesser and all that, he knows it's going to get out, the word of all this stuff.
Right.
And when he gets to the jail, even before he starts writing his life story, he's confessing to all this stuff. Some people say that he was doing this because he knew he was going to end up at Leavenworth and that he wanted to have a reputation when he arrived at Leavenworth as a bad motherfucker because that was a badass prison and
That's a great point.
And so that's what a lot of the naysayers to his story, it's crazy and it's hard to believe. And they have a point. I mean, it makes sense for him to want to build his reputation up before he gets to Leavenworth.
Yeah, Leavenworth is highest of a highest security prison.
Right.
In Washington, D.C. So,
yeah.
I mean, I guess so.
But like we've said, like a lot of the different jail stuff all the different jails he ended up at, if he says his alias and what time he was there, you go back and the record's there, and like so much of his stuff that's traceable is there.
Yeah.
And then stuff like him killing dudes in a raft in Africa, you can't track that, so you kind of got to take his word on it and go, well, everything else he says that is traceable seems to match up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a quandary. It makes this episode so much more fun to try and go, well, did he do all this crazy shit or not? Obviously, he lived a hell of a crazy life regardless.
Right.
But how much of it is true? You know, most people tend to think that not everything is true. You know, but it's a percentage point. It's like,
well, it's just too easy for him to lie, and it's only human nature. And I mean, and this guy is fucking scum of society. He just bludgers people to death and fucking rapes and robs. Why wouldn't he lie?
Yeah.
On
top of that,
on a few papers.
Wait,
right?
I know I sodomize everyone I come across, but I don't lie.
I don't lie. Hey, that's for the birds.
That's for the birds. Yeah. Yeah. So he would eventually be brought to trial for the murder of Usak, the 12-year-old boy, one of the 12-year-old boys that he killed, and he would end up receiving. I mean, they know so much about all of his confessions now. They know that he killed a guard.
Right.
And they actually brought back the death penalty for this guy.
Kansas had abolished the death penalty, and they're like, you know what? Maybe that was a little early.
Yeah, he was found guilty of murder with no recommendation for mercy. Hopkins remanded him back. I guess Hopkins was the judge at the time. Remanded him back to Leavenworth until the 5th day of September, 1930, when between the hours of 6 to 9 o'clock in the morning you shall be taken to some suitable place within the confines of the penitentiary and hanged by the neck until dead.
Right. And also, it's kind of a neat fact that all these human rights activists and death penalty opponents were trying to save him.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, fuck off.
Right.
I want to die now. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't have any. He actually didn't he write to the president at that time?
Yes.
And was like, hey, just in case you're thinking about saving me, don't. And
I
the president
agree
was
with
like, no, I wasn't.
Yeah, he said something along the lines of like, I agree with the penalty I've been given. I would like to die, and
I'm ad-libbing, of course.
right, and that's that.
Paraphrasing, rather.
Yeah, and of course, with Panzram, nothing is boring. So come his execution day, September 5th, 1930, the guards took him down, and he was so happy to get this over with that he was actually like ahead of everyone walking down to there.
They said he was like a bull on a chain, just pulling them up the stairs.
Just,
Let's do this shit.
Just get on with it. And his wish was always to spit in the big guy at the prison. Was it the warden?
The warden, yeah, right.
Yeah.
He promised that he would spit in the warden's face.
And other guys up on death row, they had a window that overlooked the execution thing that they had set up.
All crowding in there, like
and people
kids.
actually witnessed him spitting towards the warden. Now, some say he spit. He actually got the warden in the face. Some say it missed. Whatever. He tried.
Hey, he tried.
Nonetheless.
Right.
And then there's also most places you go to, they say his final words.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, as he was getting, as things were being prepared, the rope was being prepared, and he was getting the bag put over his head, he said something along the lines of, hurry up, you Hoosier bastard, I could kill 12 men or hang 12 men while you're fooling around over there. Now, some people dispute it. Like the maker of the documentary disputes this and says that he may have said many different things, but nonetheless, we're sure he said something smart-ass, before being hung.
Yeah, I mean, with a guy, let's say all this shit is fake, a guy with this kind of imagination is probably, I wouldn't put it past him to say some funny shit.
Right.
I mean, yeah, he
I could totally see
he almost had a dark sense of humor in a way.
Oh, for sure.
Certain things.
But, yeah, that's Carl Panzram, man.
Carl Panzram.
Crazy ass story. You got any other final thoughts? I mean, we've said just about everything you could say about the guy.
Well, I wanted to ask you, I mean, what do you think? Do you think, what percentage is bullshit? What percentage is truth? What do you think?
I'd say, honestly, I think at least 80% of it was true.
I really want to believe it is. I do. I really want to believe it is.
Why do you want to believe?
Because, I mean, I think it brought a lot of reform in the prison system, and
do you think he had an effect? I mean, he did have kind of I think people have a soft spot for him, even though he was such a piece of shit and he did some horrifying things. When you involve children, it's just so much worse. Like the 12-year-old boys, it's hard to get over that.
It is.
But he seems to have had a message in that. Look at what society has done to me, and this is what I'm going to do. And if you continue to do this to people, to young people, this is what's going to happen. This is going to continue to happen.
Right.
There was a time where he was in prison where he even tried to, his goal was to start world wars. Like, he wanted to start a war between Great Britain and America.
He had a plan.
Yeah.
He was planning, mass murders and things like that. Like, he had a plan where he would set a gas bomb at the end of a train tunnel. Yeah. And then when the train hit it, it would explode.
Right.
Destroy the locomotive, and then the gas would leak out and, kill all the passengers on board, and then he would go in and loot all the people. But here's my thing. He was always like, oh, I hate humanity, even myself. I hate everybody.
Yeah.
I hate everything. So why not be a suicide bomber? If you got any fucking balls about you, why don't you go and strap a bunch of explosives to your chest if you can build them and walk into a crowded area and just obliterate a bunch of people? Why?
Or he was a decent writer. Why not start writing books about changing things? Why not? I mean, he wrote this thing at the end when he'd already done a bunch of horrific acts, and maybe that's his life's work was.
I think he was way beyond thinking change was going to happen, Lauren. Don't
yeah,
you think?
And when all this shit, when he really started the terrible things that he did, he was still a teenager, pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's we can't expect him to have the wherewithal to go, I'm not going to harm other people because it's been done to me. I'm going to write books and change things.
No, I don't think he was a glass half full kind of guy.
No. Yeah, he was definitely a half glass empty guy, for sure. That should be the title of this episode. Carl Panzram, a half glass empty guy.
A half glass empty. How many times are you going to say it wrong?
I don't know.
Glass half empty.
I'm getting tired. It's been a long episode.
All right. We can do some shout outs.
Yeah, let's do some quick shout outs. We're not going to go through everybody. It's too many. Thank you guys all so much. All of the love. It's just so appreciated. All the new patrons. all of the people that have rated and reviewed on iTunes and Stitcher and just anywhere you can rate us and help us out. And if you liked us on Facebook and all that stuff, tell a friend. It's so appreciated. We've got several different social medias. We're at True Crime Guys on pretty much every social media outlet. Facebook, Twitter.
Yep.
You can find us on all those.
Hit us up, and we do respond, and we read everything.
Yeah.
Everything you guys send us.
Feedback, constructive criticism, we appreciate all of it. We've changed a lot. If you've heard us from the beginning, we used to do 15 minutes of shout-outs at the beginning.
We were pretty shitty. we were pretty shitty.
We've changed our ways, Carl Panzram never learned. We learn. I've got a special shout-out to Summer and Ashley Ann. Ashley Ann Sanchez, her birthday is May 27th. She wanted a big birthday shout-out, so what's up? Nice. Ashley. They're big creepers up there, I guess. So
cool.
What's up, y'all?
What's up, creepers?
You got some shout outs?
Yeah, I got one special one this week. It's my cousin, Steven, back in North Carolina.
Oh, you give him special treatment to family members, huh?
That's right. That's what I do.
Okay.
All you gotta do is ask.
Forget all the normal creepers that don't happen to know us or be in our family, but
no,
it's fine.
I don't really have a whole lot of family that listens to this.
It's cool, man. I'm just messing with you.
Okay. Well, you're fucking jerk.
Next week. Get your Patreon subscribe in because we're doing the cannibal Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee cannibal next week.
Get your bibs ready. It's going to get messy.
Oh boy. Yeah. We feel like we can let loose a little bit more on the Patreon ones. Like it's people that already are creepers, legitimate creepers that we can let loose a little bit more and not worry about offending people as much. So it might get a little squirrely.
It could get squirrely.
It could get squirrely in the cannibal episode.
It could.
So $2 a month, you can hear that one, and you can go back and listen to the Gacy episode too.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun on that one.
Yeah,
had a lot of fun.
And I know people are tired of us being salesmen, but it is a lot of work, and we give you 3 out of 4 episodes for free, so I don't feel that bad.
Yeah, guys, we would like to give all our content for free. We really would.
Sounds great in theory, but
we just don't have the money and the resources to do that right now. Who knows? The podcast keeps growing. You guys keep telling friends. Whatnot. If we're blessed enough to do this full time, then we could very well do that. We could give away merch and things like that, and then all our audio would be free.
We're in that in between stage where we do a shit ton of work, like as much work as the real big ones do that make tons of money, but we don't make that money, and we're not so big that sponsors are knocking down our door. So we're trying to make some ground, like grassroots money from the listeners themselves, and it's so appreciated, the ones that are willing to support us. And if you don't, if you don't have the money to do it, it's
totally fine.
Yeah, totally cool. Just listen to 19 out of the, I think we've had 20 episodes, 19 of them are free still. We're not completely forcing every listener to give us money. It is what it is. We understand.
And that's why we kind of for the Patreon episodes, we try to pick more well-known killers and cases.
Yeah, ones that require a shitload of study, even more than the normal ones.
Right. It require a lot
because there's a million resources on Jeffrey Dahmer. There's a million books. We're going to do our best to find out, get to the bottom of things, and get it correct. And that takes a lot of time. You don't want to look like an asshole in front of a bunch of people.
I was going a different direction, but that's cool. We can go your direction.
All right, that's fine.
We can turn down Lawrence Street. That's cool.
I saw the fork and I took my side, not yours.
All right, whatever.
Fork you.
Fork you.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
Well, fuck. I was gonna say that we do more popular cases that people mostly know.
Right.
So it's not like you're missing out on a case you would never heard about otherwise.
That's true. That's a good point.
You're
hearing
our take on it.
Something that everyone else has already had their take on.
Which to me is garbage. No, I'm just kidding. Which to me,
hot garbage.
No, hot garbage. So you got anything else that you want to say? Anything else you want to shout out?
TrueCrimeGuys.com. You can get your stickers. Stickers, man.
Yes, guys, we still have plenty of stickers.
Yep.
You can donate whatever the hell you want. You want to donate fucking 50 cents? We'll send you
$1 would be nice. Because it costs 50 cents for a stamp.
Stamps are still slightly under 50 cents, aren't they?
They're about 50 cents.
So yeah,
this ain't 1920.
It's like 19. So yeah, but anyways, we'll send you out some stickers.
Yeah, we got a shitload of them. We're giving away for free at this point. We're just fucking throwing them at people, throwing them at hobos. Here,
who wants them?
Stick them to your cardboard box. All right, guys, I'm tired. Let's get out of here. We've had some midday Budweisers, and we're getting a little wacky. So thank you all for tuning in.
Yes.
If you're a Patreon supporter, we'll see you next week. If not, we'll see you in a couple weeks. I'll probably be a daddy by then. Baby's coming in any day now.
Uh-oh.
So. Ruh-roh. Here we go.
Let's get crazy. And the podcast is over. Thank you guys for listening.
Keep creeping.
Keep creeping.